Welcome to the Penga Folder podcast with your host, Nana and Emily. They invest remotely in the UK and live in Sweden. In this podcast, they will be interviewing interesting guests that all invest in the UK property market.
Hi, Henrik. How is it?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, and welcome to Pengaflöd podcast.
Thank you.
So, me and several property investors have been talking about this new generation of 3D printing building. So I thought, who better to ask one person that work in a company that do that?
Mm-hmm.
So, who is Henrik, and what is Cobod?
Well, we are Cobod. Cobod stands. The first building we printed was called Building on Demand, so the bot. So when we made a company, it was logical to call it construction building on demand. So Cobod. So Cobod is not just a company. We are globally the leading company making robotics 3D construction printers, and I'm the founder and general manager of that company.
Oh, wow. So tell me, how did you even come up with this?
It was actually nothing we came up with. The idea of using large-scale printers actually must go to the professor of USC in LA, Berok, who already 20 years ago were thinking about using the printers, the 3D printers, which at that time were all quite small, use them in a bigger, larger scale to then do construction with the printers. So the originator of the original ideas is Berok, a professor at USC, and it's 20 years old.
Okay, so could you just go through the process, how it works? How does it work?
Sure. Like any other printer, 3D printer, we need a material that can go from a state of being fluid to being solid. And this is a good thing about concrete. Concrete, like plastic, if you heat plastic up, so all the usual 3D printers that you know, the cheap 3D printers that you know, the so-called FDM printers, they use plastic, they heat up the plastic, and because the plastic is heated, it's sort of fluid, you can manipulate it and you can put it on layers by layers, and then it hardens up. And concrete, in essence, is the same way. Conventional concrete will harden up a little bit slower, but we put in some special additives so that we can print layer by layer. So similar as you do in a FDM printer, you print, in our case, 2 centimeters layer height, typically. And we print the entire layer of a building, and then we move up the printer 2 centimeters, and we print on top of the layer that we just printed, which is why the bottom layer has to already been partly cured so it can sustain the load of the next layer that we are putting on. And then we put on layer by layer by layer until we reach the height that we want.
Wow. That sounds so futuristic, when you just talking about it. So I guess that you don't need so much manpower then, or
yeah, no, that's correct. There are several advantages of having printers do the job. One of them obviously is labor saving. That typically the manning when we print a building is one guy who's operating the printer and another guy that is making sure that there is concrete materials enough. So basically 2 guys can do the entire walls of the building. So obviously with that comes cost savings on the labor, but also in terms of time. We are way faster than the conventional way of building. And in addition, with any 3D printer that you have today of these FDM printers, you can design the shape that you like. The printer doesn't care whether you print with straight lines or curved lines or even wavy lines. So you can do organic shapes that are more pleasant and more aesthetically pleasing. So this gives a lot of architectural freedom. And fourthly, because that the whole intelligence, you can say, is put into the printer through the design. So you have an architect and an engineer that works out the design drawings. we take them into our software and we convert it into code, decode, so to say, that the printer understands. And therefore, the skill of the architects and the engineers are sort of put into the printer. That then limits the amount of skilled labor that you need. And if you look at the entire world, especially the developed world, so the US has this problem, all of Europe has this problem, Japan has a problem, Australia has a problem, that we have a problem of new recruiting into the construction sector of high skilled labor. And that is getting increasingly difficult everywhere. So there's a shortage in many countries for skilled labor. And now the skills are being put into the printer, and then we don't need the skills. So it's also solving that problem.
Okay. So do you think that's why it's trending? Because what you mentioned?
No, I think that's part of the reason why it's trending. But I think it all boils down to money. Money rocks the world. So when you can do it, the cheaper, it works. And of course, this freedom comes on top. So you can make some interesting designs. But of the two right now, the most of our customers are going for the lower cost. And then we have the special applications. We also print windmill towers in cooperation with GE. And here we use, let's say, we can make totally new solutions because we are not hit by the same logistical constraints as you are normally having when you build towers. So in essence, our printer can be put into a container. It can be put up at any site, windmill site, and then it can print as wide towers as you want. And since the towers are conical by shape, that means that the taller you go up, the larger the base will be compared to the top. So the diameter of the top has to be minimum 4 meters, let's say that. But then the taller you go up, the more you need the base to widen in diameter. And we don't have any limitations there. So we can just, print 10 meters or 15 meters in diameter at the base. But if you tried that in a factory, you can't transport the elements afterwards because you can't get them underneath bridges, you can't get them on the roads, etc. Yeah. So there we get totally new functionality because we're using another technology.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So what will happen with construction companies?
Well, construction companies will slowly start to adopt this technology and therefore hire fewer skilled laborers. It's not like this technology is removing the need for skilled laborers, but it's reducing the amount of skilled laborers required. So the construction companies are our customers. And of course, the most visionary and insightful of these, they have seen that this is the future. So those are among our customers. You can say right now we have a combination of the very big companies moving into this. L&T Construction in India, as an example, it has 135,000 employees. And then very small construction companies that sees this a way of disrupting the competitors. Whereas so far, we've not had that many of the medium-sized construction companies, so to say. But they are our customers.
Okay, so can even like private people use this technology, like hire you guys and use it, or how does it work, or is it just for bigger companies?
No, not at all for bigger companies also only, but we don't do projects as such. We are the tech supplier. We are like, if you need an excavator to dig a hole, you call a general contractor that has an excavator and he does the hole with the help of the excavator. Now it's the same thing here. If you need a building, you call a general construction company and they have a printer and then they do the building for you. We don't do the buildings, we do the technology.
Okay, then I'm with you. So what would be the consequence for these type of buildings that will be made?
Well, if you look at this historically, it's been pretty small buildings in general, and that has been because of limitations on the printer. But then, we came around and already we started moving into much bigger buildings, and we have much more even bigger printers on the way. So we will see much bigger buildings being 3D printed, and with that, we will also see more variety in the design than what we've been used to, because they do want to use this capability of the free-form architecture or whatever that you can call it that the printers allow. So we will see, let's say, more unusual building types, even for pretty traditional buildings, low-cost buildings, because you can simply do it with no extra cost.
Okay. So that leads me in, as you're aware, this podcast is a property podcast. So
Yeah, I understand.
we as property investors or developers, how can we use this?
Well, it means that you have the ability now to get much more unique buildings, or let's say get better design at more affordable pricing. And that should create a better return for you as property investors because, if you have two buildings, one look like a standard building and the other one looks inspiring and much more interesting, if they cost the same, people will buy the inspiring building. And so you can charge a little bit more for that one.
Yeah. So this is my question regarding your company. What are the challenges that you're facing?
Many. We're trying to change the world, right? And the world doesn't want to get changed in one day. There is some resistance, and there is some habits in there that has to be changed. And so, especially in the construction sector, where the general contractors, they're used to that, hey, they build the buildings that last for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. They need to be goddamn sure that what they build will last, right? So there's a natural hesitation to just embark on any new technology that comes, because it has to be proven that the buildings will last and so on. Hence, the adoption is slower than what we would wish for, but we do understand it that they have to be careful, and also we see that with the more proof that is being delivered on a day-by-day basis that these buildings are very solid and they will last, means that more and more construction companies are getting convinced that this is really part of their future.
Okay. Yeah, that's some challenges, but hopefully the new era of people that are very tech savvy will like adjust and take this and use this as yeah, something better because it's more advantage. All of the stuff that you're mentioning now here is very good and very much time efficient.
I don't think it's a surprise if I say that among the smaller companies, relatively young managers and owners are the predominant type we are dealing with. Whereas
Yeah,
in the more established, bigger companies, the older is more represented. But
yeah,
in the smaller companies, they tend to be driven by the visions and the belief in the future that the younger people and owners and managers are having.
yeah. So how much does it cost all of this?
Well, it's a little bit like asking me what's the price of a car. Also, so obviously, I will answer. Well, that depends on which car you want and where you want to buy it. You know, you want a Lamborghini, it costs you millions. But if you want an ancient Tatra, it costs you thousands of euros, right? So it depends on what type of car and where you want it. And it's the same thing with the building. Buildings are being built to live up to the local building code. That local building code is more or less restrictive in different countries. Denmark and Sweden are, of course, among the countries, probably the countries with the highest building codes and the most requirements, especially in terms of the foundation, the thickness of the insulation, the energy preservation requirements, and so on and so forth. And that leads to pretty expensive buildings. On the other hand, we don't have tornadoes or earthquakes, so we save on that. And then you can go to countries like Mexico or Chile, that is, or Japan, where you have earthquakes, where you need to build in more reinforcement in order to cope with these situations, and therefore that is driving some of the cost. And then you can go to Africa, where they don't have either, and the quality that they can accept is lower, and the building code is more lenient, and there it will be cheaper. So it all depends on what type of building and where you are.
Okay, so then maybe I should have reframed my question and said, is it more cost efficient than the conventional way of construction?
Yes, it is. And it is because of two things. Because of what I said about the labor usage, we use far less labor. and we complete the project much faster. That means if you're an investor, you are investing in the total project until the building is made. And it's first when the building can be sold that you actually can get some return on your money. So the amount of time you tie up your cash and your capital in the building process is a little bit of a nightmare. Now, by reducing that time, we can make it much more economical and attractive to actually do these projects.
Yeah. So then my follow-up question is, where in the world do you get your most business?
Yeah, where don't I get it from, I would say, because even I have been surprised. Africa was the single biggest country last year. That was a surprise to me. So Africa and the US were the biggest countries last year, but we get it everywhere. We get it in Asia, we get it in the Middle East, we get it in Africa, Europe, the US. The only place where we haven't sold printers to so far is Latin and South America and Australia, but we will get there also. I think this is because of lack of knowledge in these markets, especially in Latin and South America, where they don't speak English as much as we do in Europe and elsewhere, and so they're not picking up on the mainly English spoken news about 3D construction printing.
Yeah, you'll get there. So, as you're aware, we live in a world of very environment friendly stuff. Like we want everything to be very eco. So is this environment friendly?
Sure. Both yes and no. It's very environmentally friendly in the sense that you don't use more materials than needed. Like with any 3D printer, you build from the ground up and you just build what is needed. When you are, for instance, doing a precast building, like is the dominant building method at least in Scandinavia, then you get components, concrete components, elements in, and you cut them up and you put them together. So all this cutting up means waste. We don't have that type of waste. So that's one way. Second way is that we can build more intelligent structures in terms of the use of materials. So we can limit the amount of materials we use simply because we can build some structures that you can't do when you base yourself only on straight lines, so to say. But we also have to be realistic and say, like any other construction, we are basing ourselves on concrete, and concrete is by virtue, generically, not the most environmentally friendly material on Earth.
Okay. So my following question is the impact on the current housing market
in Europe.
Europe, over the world. You can choose wherever you want. Just in general.
I think in one particular impact that at least that I can, and I'm not a property expert by any means or standard, but I think that we will see affordable housing rise in that, and that would mean that we would be able to make housing available to more people that used to didn't have it. So I think that's at least a consequence that we will see. And again, I also think we will see that much more variety in the terms of the design. If you go back to England in the heydays before the financial crisis, you could go into sites where they were building 100 or 200 buildings of identical design. The exact same building done 200 times. And you know what? That's boring for the human eye. That's like, man, it's like Me Too. It's not inspiring in any way, shape, or form. And I think we will see much more variety because the printer can print one way for one building and then do another design for the next building. It doesn't care.
Yeah. So do you think because of all of this, like you mentioned, it's going to be cheaper to make it and etc. Will this affect the cost of the house prices? Will the house prices go down around the world because of this? Do you think?
The cost will go down. Whether that leads to lower pricing is not up for us to decide, right? That's up to you guys. You want to make money on it, right? But I do think that we can attract a new market, as I said. So therefore, yes, the pricing will come down. I think this is very fascinating, because if you look over time and you just think about your own our own situation here in Scandinavia, if you go back 20 years and looked at what the cars were costing 20 years ago, they were roughly the same price as now. A middle-sized car was around 200,000 crowns. In my country, I know they were lower in your country because you don't have the taxes we have.
Yeah.
But maybe in your country they were 100,000 crowns, right? But
Yeah.
today, 20 years after, they still cost the same. But 20 years ago, the building cost for a square meter might have been 10,000 crowns, and today they're like 15,000 crowns, right? And the reason for that is that, or 20,000 crowns. The reason for that is that we have not seen the productivity gains that industry has made, right? In industry, we have industrialization, we have robots, we make things more and more efficiently. But that has never happened to construction. Hence, relatively speaking, property has become a bigger and bigger part of our spending relative to electronics, to furniture, to your car, to food, and so on. Simply because we don't get the productivity gains in the construction sector that the other manufacturing sectors have seen, and that is because of lack of technology. So hopefully now the bigger use of technology in the form of 3D construction printing, for instance, will lead to bigger usage of technology and thereby lower prices and thereby more affordable pricing. So yes, and lower cost for the housing. So yes, I think it will happen eventually. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. When you mention all of these factors, I think so as well. It's inventable. So,
Mhm.
how far away are we from actual adopting this technology to property?
Well, it's already happening as we speak. Peri, a big German company with I think 10,000 employees or so, they are right now finishing the first commercial 3-story apartment building with 5 apartments being done in Germany for a German developer that is making this building for profit. So maybe this is one of the first, at least with a very clear goal of making a profit, because these are rental apartments.
Yeah.
A large part of the German housing market is not an owner's market but a rental market, and so we are starting to see it happening now, and we know of landlords in more and more countries that are looking to do exactly this, to make it commercially uh, adopted much more in much larger scale than this.
Yeah. So then I have a follow-up question regarding that. So how long will this take? This 3-story, or you don't know?
Well, in this case, it was special because they deliberately wanted to go slow and, let's say, record everything that they did and write down and notice, etc., because they were taking a long-term approach on it, meaning that they wanted to learn as much as they could from the project so that the next projects could be optimized. And this is, when you do things the first time, you are never an expert at it. You get an expert at it, the 5th time you do it or the 10th times you do it, when you get
Yeah.
the experience, right? And they wanted to gain as much experience out of the first one as possible to shorten the time when they became very, very good. So speed was not the main concern here. It was learning that was the main concern for them.
Okay. So we have come to the end, Henrik, but I have some questions that I always ask my guest. So, if you have unlimited funds, who would you have as a mentor?
I'm not sure that I have a qualified answer for that one.
You can choose whoever you want. You were like, I
Okay.
would choose myself.
No, as a mentor, I would say people that have done what we're trying to do, change the world with a new technology, has grown a company from being very small to being much more significant on a global scale. And that does not necessarily have to be within robotics. That could be within different kind of industries. I could say Elon Musk, but I think Elon Musk burned too much money before he became successful, and it was only because he got the back end in the US that he could do it. If you had done it in Europe, he would have gone bankrupt because in Europe we don't have that much amount of risk capital, so we have to spend our capital a little bit more sensible.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That okay. So, what about a book? Do you have a book that you would recommend to the listeners, or that you would recommend to anyone?
I can say very, 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 very clearly, I've been way too busy to read any books the last 5 years, so I cannot provide a meaningful answer to that one. Also, I'm sorry.
Okay, then I have another question for you instead.
Okay.
What are bad recommendation you hear in your profession or area of expertise?
What is the bad? What are the bad recommendations I've gotten?
Yeah, oh yeah, that you hear or yeah,
Well,
or expertise.
Numerous times in my careers, on numerous occasions with different issues, I have heard this cannot be done. And that almost is like igniting me, trying then to say, well, I'm sure I can get it done, and I'll go fix it and I'll do it. Numerous times I've been exposed to people that are concluding something on a technology or a method or process on the basis of limited knowledge and historical knowledge, not up to date and full knowledge. And then they go on to very solid conclusions about, no, this can never be done. No, you can't make it. You cannot do that, and so on. And I'm the opposite. I look at the limiting factors, I fix those, and then we do it.
Yeah, that's good. We need more people like you in the world. So we can go ahead.
Otherwise, you just keep on doing the same thing we've always done, and then for sure you'll not become richer.
No, that's true. So, if people wants to reach out to you, how can they get hold of you?
They just look up cobod.com, and my email is on the website under contact, and we are very approachable. We do reply to all emails that we're getting. I know we are very strange in that sense, because it seems to be a trend that tech companies, they feel so much about themselves that they don't have to answer emails, but we have the other habit. We actually answer all emails we're getting, and we answer fast.
Yeah, you did answer really quick.
I do not remember the precise, but let me put it this way: 95 to 98% of all the emails should be answered within a day, and we actually managed to do that. So yeah,
that's good. So Henrik, thank you very much for your time, for explaining all of this good tech that's coming and emerging in the property world. And I hope the listener have taken notes and listen. And if they want to ask any more questions, they can just send you an email like you mentioned.
Yeah, I'll probably pass them on to some of my people because I am the general manager. So I don't deal with hundreds of single questions, but I have people that will deal with it.
Okay, so take care. Don't be stressed. Invest, people.
I agree.